one of the assistant special agent in charge of the GBI's, the Child Exploitation and Computer Crimes Unit. So in that unit, we conduct the child sex trafficking investigations throughout the state of Georgia. And we have a lot of help with our local agencies and our federal agencies with that. As a matter of fact, when we stood up a work unit to combat child sex trafficking in Georgia in July of 2011, the first thing we did was we had to go out to Texas and learn what this stuff was and how to work it and things like that. And one of the things you can be very proud of in this room here tonight is it's your local community, your state, and your federal partners in here all get this in Georgia. And that's one of the reasons that I guess Georgia has been given such a bad reputation in the media for being a hub for this type of activity. Well, one of the reasons is because we talk about it and we're doing something about it. And when you talk about it and do something about it and you make arrests and you make recoveries and you make victims whole again, well, it gets out there and people start talking about it. So think about that when next time you think or you hear that Atlanta's a bad hub. Another good thing about Georgia is we have Georgia Cares. Without Georgia Cares and without organizations like Cheryl's, us in law enforcement couldn't do our jobs. Okay, we have to stay in a lane. You know, our job is to stay on the street and to not only to locate children who are involved in this and turn them over and get them help, but we have to put the bad guys in jail. And that's one of the things I want to talk about tonight. I want to kind of give you guys, you, ladies and gentlemen, an example of what y'all have given us in our toolbox to work with. So this is a case example. This happened in the next door county, in DeKalb County. And the trafficker in this case was Daryl Curry. Daryl was 48 years old at the time of this case, and it was initiated back in 2011. And this investigation, as we're going through it, keep in mind it was a joint investigation, not only with the GBI, but with the DeKalb County Police Department and the DeKalb County District Attorney's Office. This case originated from a simple 911 call from a citizen in DeKalb County. And the call came in. There was a very young female. She was naked, and she was running throughout the streets kind of going crazy. Okay? So a uniformed patrol officer responded to that call. He identified this victim or this young lady to be 16 years old. She was sleep deprived. She was food deprived. She was under the influence of all the above. She was actually going berserk. She was immediately taken to the hospital. She had all types of physical injuries about her. And one of the things that she was saying was that she was running away from her pimp. And she was able to identify her pimp as Daryl Curry. Another interesting thing that she told us, and I'll let you guys read this stuff. I'm not going to y'all know how to read, so if I miss something, it's up there. But one of the things that she told us that night was that DC had specific rules that they were supposed to go by, that he would beat her and her other people that were with her if those rules were not followed. She was forced to engage in commercial sex with between 15 and 20 men a night, and she could only eat after she met her quota. So on this particular night, when she was able to run away when DC actually fell asleep or passed out or did whatever he did, and she was able to get out. But one of the things she told us at the hospital was that there was another young lady, 15 years old, actually in the home. So we went ahead and took some information, corroborated some information that she gave us. We were able to get enough to obtain and execute a search warrant. We utilized a SWAT team for this type of warrant because of all the information that we had on Daryl Curry told us that he was a really bad dude. Okay? And good thing that we did because he actually confronted some of the members of the SWAT team upon entry into that house. The good news is we were able to locate and identify and rescue or recover, so to speak, another 15-year-old victim that was in that home. Very, very similar circumstances. Obviously, we talked to this victim separately, but she told us the same story. She's been beaten. She's been food deprived. She's been forced to not only engage in commercial sex, but she's been forced to the life to use drugs and things like that. All of the things that the traffickers do to these girls, they were telling us about it. And it's just really a horrific story. She also told us that DC or Daryl Curry, he both knew their real ages. And you know, one of the things that traffickers do is you have to keep in mind their mindset. Or at least we do in law enforcement when we're investigating these cases. This is about money and this is about power. And it's so much easier to have power over a 14 or a 15 or a 16-year-old than it is a 30-year-old. You know? And another thing is it's a whole lot easier to explain to someone like me or someone like one of your uniform officers that may come across this person on a traffic stop why you have a 14 or 15-year-old in a car with you as opposed to a kilo of cocaine. Right? That's a little bit hard to explain. But you might could explain away the kid in your car. Okay? And that's why traffickers like DC or Daryl Curry, that's why they like these young girls, because they can manipulate them and because they will believe their lies. One of the things that both of these victims told us was the way that they were trafficked or the way that they were manipulated, and this had a lot to do with on the internet. So they were advertising, Daryl Curry was advertising these girls on the internet on places like Backpage.com, on places like Craigslist, and things like that. And all that information we were able to go back and corroborate during the course of our investigation. And not only that, we were able to identify numerous other victims throughout the country. You can turn it. Here are the rules. This is real life stuff. This is the stuff that both of these girls told us that Daryl insisted that they do. And if they didn't do it, they would get beaten. If anyone asks, you're 19 years old, do not look another man in the eye. We see that so often, and we teach our law enforcement partners this as well. When you come across a young girl, particularly if she's with a non-family member adult, and he or she just won't look you in the eye, that's a sign. It's a huge sign, and we see it here in this case for real. Head must be down and looking at floor unless spoken to. You cannot eat unless you earn the food, and earning means engaging in commercial sex with strangers. You must earn eating and sleeping rights by doing tricks. You must stay in your room until retrieved by DC. You are not allowed to sit or stand unless instructed. All money must be given to DC. This wasn't a sharing type situation here. You will have sex with DC when told to. If any rule is broken, you will be beaten and given extra clients. Those are the real life rules of the sex industry. In Georgia, one of the things that we have, and really this is both federal law and state law, it's worded a little bit different on the state side, but it's easier to explain like this. We like to be able to show force, fraud, or coercion when we make these cases. Now, the good thing about Georgia law is we don't have to. If we have a victim that's 17 years old and younger, just the mere fact that they're involved in the Commercial Sex Act or in the commercial sex trade, we can charge human trafficking for anyone who assists in that endeavor. But if we can show force, fraud, or coercion, do you think we have that in this case here? Yeah, absolutely. And I'm here to tell you, if you're dealing with a kid, a child, you're gonna be able to show force, fraud, or coercion. It enhances our sentencing abilities within the state. We talked about how Daryl Curley exploited these victims. One of the things that he would do is take photographs of these children on his digital camera and on his cell phone camera. And he would take those photographs and he would upload them to places like Backpage.com. Well, when we executed that search warrant at his house, we were able to get these electronic devices, take them back to our crime lab, and extract those pictures from there. And we were able to make additional charges on Daryl Curry for possession and distribution of child pornography. So that's really something that we do in these cases. You can turn it. So ultimately, we identified 5 other juveniles. They were identified and interviewed, and these girls were all over the country. He recruited people both online and in person. He would promise them money and protection. Both of these victims actually came in contact with Daryl Curry voluntarily at first. And that's something that's a really tough pill to swallow, not only for you folks in here, but for us in law enforcement. And that's one of the reasons that we like to get out here and to train, is because there's no such thing as consent on commercial sex if you're 17 years old and younger. There's just not. So whether or not they're there voluntarily or not is not really an issue. You can turn it. So here's what he said, and we hear this all the time. I take opportunities like this to, educate potential jurors in the future, right? This is what you'll hear in a case. This is his defense. Now, whether it's coming in through him or through somebody else, he's just giving these girls a place to stay. He's just, he wants them to go to school and have a job. He's in the entertainment business. They asked me for help. One of the things that he did is he had recruiting videos and instruction videos on the internet where he recorded himself so he could teach other traffickers how to exploit kids. And I've got those videos. I cannot show you those videos in here because they're graphic. The language is it's just not appropriate for this venue. But if I were to show you that, it would sicken you. And we were able to retrieve these videos off the internet, and we actually played those videos at his trial, which was super for us. Like I said before, we captured some horrific images, some child abuse images on his electronic devices that we're able to use against him. One of the horribly tragic events, as if this whole story isn't depressing enough, is one of our victims actually was pregnant with DC's child at the time. And so, due to the conditions that he forced this child to be in, the child didn't make it. So we made the best out of a really bad situation. We were able to, through DNA evidence on that fetus, we were able to prove that was in fact Derek Curry's child, and we were able to charge him with aggravated child molestation because he was having forced sex with a 15-year-old, not that you would have to have forced sex. So that's just another charge that we were able to do. Tattoos, the photographs, you can go ahead. As we talked about the instructional videos that he had, we got these off of his cell phone, and they were also on the internet. I'm not going to play them in here. It's just inappropriate. Here's a victim's impact statement from one of our victims. And I want to take the time to read this real quick. It has been almost 2 years now since the incident with Derek Curry. I don't understand why he did it. How can this be a man? How could someone destroy their heart like that? How could you let yourself take control of another person? He was a heartless person who acted as if nothing in this world could kill him. I felt like he had my soul in a box, and he was strangling me on a daily basis. I could see the devil in his eyes and feel the anger in his words. Why would he do it? Does he not understand that he caused so much pain? The nightmares are so bad because of him. The fear lives with me, always being scared that someone is going to hurt me or take me from my home. The fear of falling for another pimp. The way that I hate men is all because of him. I cry myself to sleep thinking of what he did to me. I want to join the army, but because of the things he did, but now I have panic attacks and can't think straight. I can't get my being attacked. I don't know why that picture's on there. Anyway, I apologize. I think on a different screen it shows different. But anyway, that statement, that victim's impact statement, was written by one of the victims, and you can see the lasting psychological trauma that child is dealing with and will be dealing with for a very, very long time. And that's why it's so important that we have service providers that can deal with those issues. Now, here's the good news as far as with us in law enforcement and what you can thank the state of Georgia for doing. Because of the laws that were passed, some of which were passed in July of 2011 that really strengthened our ability to work these cases. Back a long time ago, we did everything in our power to make a case go federal. because we knew that if we could get a federal nexus to this case and if we could convince a U.S. Attorney's Office to prosecute these cases, that we'd get more prison time, right? Well, this case stayed in state court, okay, Superior Court in DeKalb County. We were able to get him 60 years to serve 40 years for what he did to these child. So a 40-year serve sentence in the state is very good. Folks, let me tell you, we're seeing sentences in counties like Fulton, life sentences. We're seeing life sentences out of DeKalb County. We had a case in Athens, Clark County back last fall where we got 3 consecutive life sentences on a case. All of those are state cases. So we're very proud of the work that we're doing, not just us, but all of our partners are doing in the state. And it's not just us, it's y'all too. There's got to be people who commit their time to hear these cases and to issue these verdicts and things like that to get these really horrific people off of the street. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I hope I didn't depress you guys all too much, but I think it's important to understand that the victims in these cases just aren't faceless people. They're our children. They're children in our community, and they're children that typically are running from something to start with. And sometimes they feel like whatever situation that people like Daryl Curry have put them in, it's better than what they were running from to begin with. So we all need to think about that and really strengthen ourselves and our families and do what we can do for these children in our communities.